This video is for section 5.3 in the textbook on complex fractions and unit rates. You have one vocabulary word this chapter or this section, which is complex fractions, and that can be found on page 194. Complex fractions are written like this. So we have something like 1/3 divided by 1/2. And we've talked about this when we've met in person before about how a fraction inside of a fraction looks kind of different. But we know that we can write that a couple of different ways. 1/3 divided by 1/2 that way. Another way that looks maybe kind of different is 1/3 divided by 1/2. Okay, and we also have 1/3 divided by 1/2. So lots of different notations for that division operation. But what we're going to do is focus on this way right now and show the reason why we multiply by the reciprocal when we divide, because in this complex fraction we're going to take away this 1/2, and not really take it away, but multiply it by its multiplicative inverse, which is 2/1. And we can cancel that out, making that equal to 1 in our denominator, which is what we want. But in math, we know that if we multiply one part by 2/1, we're going to have to do the other part by 2/1 as well. So what we have here is multiplication by the reciprocal, also known as the multiplicative inverse. So 1 times 2 is equal to 2, and 3 times 1 is equal to 3. So that's the example shown for example 1 on page 194. Let's take a look at the bottom of page 194 at the three examples there given, which is 1/3 divided by 1/4. Move my camera here. 1/3 divided by 1/4. And if we write it out that way, we know that we do the reciprocal of 1/4, which is 4/1, and we get 1 times 4, which is 4, and 3 times 1, which is 3. Okay, we also have another example down there, 2/3 divided by 3/4. And if we multiply by the reciprocal in the denominator to get rid of that, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal in the numerator to get 2 times 4, which is 8, and 3 times 3, which is 9. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next page, 195, to look at example 2. Example 2 has maybe just a fraction in the numerator or denominator, but not both like shown here on the first example. So sorry about my whiteboard not cooperating here. It looks like we need to clean that. But what we have here is 2/3 divided by 7. And that's on the middle of page 195 for example 2. Well, 7 can be written as 7/1. And so when we multiply by its reciprocal, it's 1/7. And then multiply by 1/7, which is 2/21 for that example. For letter 2B, I realize sometimes we get caught in using a strategy and we forget that we can do sometimes these problems, we can do them mentally. And that's a good example for 2B there, because it's 2/4 divided by 2. Okay, you certainly could make 2/1 and multiply by 1/2 and multiply by 1/2 to get 2/8, which is 1/4. But I want to back up and just have you think about what the original problem said. 2/4 could be reduced to 1/2. And if you think of money, 1/2, 50 cents divided by 2 people is how much money? Well, that's a quarter, which is 25 cents. And so when you are shown a new strategy for doing problems in math, always remember that there's more than one strategy to use and not to give up on those strategies sometimes, because mental math is a strategy that you can sometimes incorporate with these problems. For 2C, we have 14 divided by 7/9. So we're going to multiply by 9/7, which is the reciprocal, and multiply by 9/7. Again, not forgetting that 14 can be written as 14 over 1. Another thing to keep in mind is that you can cross cancel, or you could have multiplied across and then reduce. It's up to you. But in this case, we have 2 times 9, which is 18, 1 times 1, which is 1. So we'll just write the answer as 18. Finally, on example 3, it talks about finding unit rates using complex fractions. And so you can look through the example there on page 195. And I am going to make sure that this whiteboard gets clean for my next video. So sorry about that. It's just for some reason not wanting to erase. But look through the example on page 195 and let's take a look at example 3A at the bottom. A truck driver drove 350 miles in 8 3/4 of an hour. Okay. Another strategy we have is the using a calculator. So I could type in 350 divided by 8.75 to find out that speed in miles per hour. That's one strategy. Okay, mental math is another strategy, and in this case, the way this example is showing us is the way that I'm going to work it out. So 350 miles, I'm going to change 8 3/4 to an improper fraction, which is 35/4, and then I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, or the multiplicative inverse, which is 4/35. As long as I multiply by 4/35 in the numerator, remember 350 can be written as 350 over 1, and then 35 into 35 is once, 35 into 350 is 10, 10 times 4 is 40, and that is 40 miles per hour. So that truck must have been caught in some traffic or some construction if it was only driving 40 miles per hour, or maybe it was just not driving on the interstate. So whatever the case may be, hopefully those examples get you through section 5.3. Thanks.